Namaste, everyone, and welcome to yet another podcast episode from Incense Show. So, just grab your favorite beverage or snacks and relax while I give you company. Today, I'm reading another chapter from the Complete Incense book by Suzanne Fisher Rizzi. It's page number 66, and we're reading chapter 4 that's on Egypt. It says, "Follow your desire because you are alive. Place myrrh on your head. Dress yourself in the finest linen, drenched in precious fragrances. It's a true gift from the gods. Multiply your pleasures. Don't let your heart become tired. Follow your desire and your pleasures." From Song of the Harpist, circa 2000 BC. It says, "Fragrances from heaven." It has been said that no people love fragrances like we do. Nowhere would the gods be pampered with more pleasant aromas. No country on this earth has seen so many sweet-smelling columns of smoke rising to the heavens than on the banks of the Nile. And that is as it should be. When I close my eyes, I inhale the fragrance of our Egyptian land, the muddy, fertile waters, the dry, hot breath of the desert, the fresh trees brimming with life, and the almost painfully sweet blue of the lotus. I know that for as long as I'm here, the fragrance of the sacred frankincense will greet me every morning. In the shimmering heat of midday, I will recognize the heavy, pleasant smell of the precious myrrh. And with the parting of Ra, the sunset in the evening, all the troubles of the day will be laid to rest with the smell of the sensuous, warm kefi, which combines all the fragrances of Egypt and Punt. Indeed, it is true, we cannot live without these pleasing fragrances because they connect us to the gods and eternity. Then we have page number 66, which says the root of fragrances. The Egyptian incense burning tradition began 6,000 years ago. During the time of the early pre-dynastic Baduri culture, 4500 to 3200 BC, it was a common practice to place fragrant tree resins in burial sites. Trees, with their roots buried deep in the soil and their crowns reaching dramatically to the sky, appealed to people's religious sensibilities during primeval times. They considered trees the seat of the gods. Their chances of survival in the hot climate of Egypt and Africa often depended on trees. In that sense, they saw the fragrances of the resins as the trees. Breath and energy, which were aids for the soul. Burning resins was an attempt to transfer the tree's magical life force to people. Families buried fragrant gifts with the dead to assure the deceased person's survival in the next world. The tradition of giving the dead an incense burning gift on the journey to the beyond was a custom that continued until the end of the ancient Egyptian culture. Many centuries later, when archaeologists opened grave sites, they found burial chambers with ebony chests and marble urns filled with beautiful fragrances. Scientists analyzed the air in these burial chambers and found evidence of fragrance particles from incense burning ceremonies that took place more than 2,500 years ago. Merchants from India passed on the traditions of burning of frankincense and myrrh, two of the most favorite fragrances in Egypt. Indeed, the Egyptian people copied the tradition of incense burning from India. They believed it connected them to the gods. Most likely, the merchants from India were responsible for establishing the frankincense trade route, one of the most important trade routes in all of history. But traders carried more than incense burning substances from Arabia on this route. The route itself connected different cultures with one another, which allowed trade to flourish. Beginning in the 5th century BC, this road through the desert, 2200 miles long, became easier to use because of the domestication of camels. These replaced travel on donkeys, the beasts of burden. Travel from Asia to Europe became possible because the frankincense trade route connected to seaports. As soon as the Indian merchants introduced Egyptians to the wonderful fragrances of frankincense and myrrh, the Egyptians were determined that they would never be without them again. They were fascinated, and no price was too high, no trouble too great to possess these precious incense-burning wares. Throughout the Egyptian empire, frankincense and myrrh became the most precious objects one could possess. Expeditions to the land of happiness. The appetite of the Egyptians for incense-burning substances grew rapidly, and people were not willing to wait until a merchant arrived with his wares. To honor the Egyptian gods and to sacrifice frankincense and myrrh to them, King Asa, Tetkara of Dynasty 11, went on an expedition to Punt called the Magic Land of Happiness, where balsam trees grew in abundance. Punt is located at the southern end of the Red Sea. Frankincense and myrrh trees, although native to the region, were already rare. The most important route for world trade during antiquity began among these trees that flourished in that particular hot climate. King Asa reached Punt by ship. Everything went beautifully, bringing honor not only to the gods but to the king himself. From then on, expeditions to Punt took place on a regular basis during this ancient kingdom. These events were so important, scholars recorded them in great detail on temple walls and in burial chambers. One of the expeditions particularly well documented took place in the year 1500 BC during Dynasty 18. Pharaoh Empresses Hatshepsut, the daughter of the sun, organized it. She was the first woman to occupy the throne of the pharaoh. Ever since this expedition took place, her name, her fame, and her beauty have been closely connected to the precious fragrances of Punt. Reports indicate that she was personally involved when the myrrh was taken off the ships. Her Majesty herself is working with her hands. The most precious myrrh is all over her body. Her fragrance is mingled with that of Punt. Her skin is wrapped in gold. This wise pharaoh, the first extraordinary woman in the world history, wanted more than the precious resin. She also gave orders to bring whole trees back intact. This is the first reported botanical expedition. 5 boats laden with frankincense, myrrh, gold, and 31 balsam trees returned years later. The trees were planted in honor of the god Amon-Ra and the Hathor, the goddess of love, and the terrace temple Deir-il-Bahari. This was the temple Empress Hatshepsut had built in the vicinity of Luxor. Hieroglyphics on the temple walls report, "Never has there been undertaken a transport like this by any queen since the beginning of the universe." The myrrh trees themselves were also carefully painted on the rock walls. the people who carried them spoke the following words: Myrrh tree, come with us. Come to the land of gods, to the kingdom of Ammon. That is where you belong. You will thrive like mart in the temple of Ammon. Flattering the noses of the gods and the people. Fragrant incense burning accompanied almost every facet of Egyptian life, sacred, medicinal, and aesthetic. This is page number 68. We'll be reading the rest of the chapter in the next few episodes. For now, we are done, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and you learned something from it. If you liked it, give it a like. And this is Dolly Jha here, and I thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Till we meet again next, take very good care of yourself. Namaste.